Please be seated. So the Bishop of Hawaii, the oversight of Mike Medina, just doesn't drop by. When I contacted Bishop nicely and said that I would need to baptize my granddaughter, who I hadn't met yet, he recommended a couple of churches, but he thought you were special. So I just wanted to let you know, your bishop thinks you're wonderful. And so, through him, thank you for allowing me to be here. You see, because of COVID, my granddaughter was born in Estonia while her mother was visiting her parents. And then they were caught. And the Army, in its wisdom, it sent my son this last month to Newport for the War College. I don't understand the military, so I guess it makes sense that you send an Army major to Newport. It's better than Kansas, which was going to be the option. And it's actually easier for me to get to Newport from Honolulu than it would be to get to Portland. So I'm here by the grace of your bishop and your rector, and I get to baptize my granddaughter. Now the lesson today from Ephesians actually helps with today. You see, this isn't the end of Paul's ministry, or it's just after Paul has died, and they collected some of the things Paul had said. And Ephesians is that point for Christians. When most Christians realize the end of the world wasn't the way they planned. And since it wasn't the way they planned, they had to figure out, how do you live life when it doesn't go the way you thought it was going to go? It's kind of like hope. We don't know what the future is going to hold. We know things are completely different now than they were before. So do you wear a mask or don't wear a mask? Well, if you're going to be around children who haven't been vaccinated, you should wear your mask. But is there enough space? And you know what it's going to like to worship. Will the camera work? Will the sound system go all right? When will we get to sing again? So in Ephesians, what's going on is the first 3 chapters are Paul talking about God. And in fact, if you notice, what you heard today was right at the beginning of chapter 3. And we ended with a prayer, a spectacular prayer, not just a good prayer. Paul can pray. I pray that you may have power to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Now to him, who by the power at work within us is able to accomplish abundantly far more than we can ask or imagine, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus, to all generations, forever. Now, Ephesians only has 6 chapters. So the first 3 were about God, and the next 3 are about us. And so next week, you'll hear, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of your calling, with all humility and gentleness, patience, bearing one another with love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. Now the next part, you will remember, we just said the words. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you are called to one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God, Father of all. So in a few minutes, we're going to do the baptismal cup. Now, have you all been to baptisms before? In the Episcopal Church. And you might have made it to a confirmation. Right? Do you remember that every time there's a baptism or a confirmation, you promised that you would uphold that person in their life in Christ? Did you make your calls this week? Did you check on how you're responsible, you promised? What will need to? I've been ordained a law 35 years. I don't even remember all the shit about that. I've been a bishop for 14 years. You know what it's like to have someone come up to you and say, "Oh, you confirmed me." You have no idea who they are. It happened. So I decided that you and I have to assume everyone we meet every day is the person we promised to uphold their life in Christ. Everyone. And if you take back the covenant, we're going to go through it again, we're going to say it again. I think it actually helps us live that life. Just like Paul said it to the Ephesians. The first 3 questions are about God. Now, Episcopalians generally now want to jump to the end. We want to go to that part that says we respect the dignity of every human being and we're going to work for justice and peace. That's the end. You've got to do a lot of work before you get there. So the first 3 questions. Now, think with me what they mean. Do you believe in God, the Creator? In and of itself, that's the big question. You can be a good person and not be in church. You can be a good person and not believe in God. My own father finally consented to be baptized on my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. I'm not really sure it's so much a conversion as it was nagging. And he knew I would do it. He was okay with that. No, you and I begin with the premise that there is a ground of being. There is a source of life. There is God. And then we get to peace. Do you believe in God the Son, Jesus Christ? And if you remember, it's the creed which was saying, but it's really the retelling of Jesus' life. That means you and I will see in other human beings, when we look in the mirror, the stuff of God. Oh. Everyone I look at. If you believe that God came to us in the broken, hurt body of Jesus, an out-of-work carpenter, an itinerant preacher, to teach love, every hand can take, and we can take hands again. All the eyes that you look into are the same stuff as Christ. And then we're going to affirm that that presence of God is still here, right now, with us. In the church, in forgiveness, Holy Spirit, but we're not alone. So in the first 3 theological questions, just like Paul did in Ephesians, when he said, "Who God was," then you and I have to tell the whole world how we're going to live. From now on, every day. So for all of those children that you've ever seen baptized, and all those people you've ever seen confirmed, we have the way we're supposed to live. Will you continue in the apostles' teaching and prayers and breaking of bread? Now, I do wish we had made it simpler. Will will you go to church? Will you take communion? And will you read the Bible? That's what some of the Baptist granddaughter. But the basics, understanding of who we are. We tell our story by telling the story of Jesus over and over and over again. We tell our children how to live in love by telling the story. We teach them at night how to pray, to bless the food, we gather. And that here in this family, here in this place, there are no strangers. That's why God can let children run around. Not because it's my granddaughter, because they need to run around. That's life. Where is no life? Where's the Spirit? So then we continue and we say something very interesting. I think it's the hardest part for most of us. Maybe for you. I decided we should call it the I'm sorry pause. Will you persevere in resisting evil? Whenever you fall into sin, repent and return to the Lord. It's hard to say I'm sorry. Now, I have to admit, me, my wife, is the one I usually say I'm sorry. It's particularly on those days when I've had, I don't know, the 8th cup of coffee. And you get home and nothing's right. That requires I'm sorry. But that also says, I'm a broken human being. I'm broken. Children need to know that. And that it's okay. We're then going to say that it's harder. Will you proclaim by word and example the good news of God? In Hawaii, there's a saying. It's part of pidgin, where different languages come together. You don't talk stick. Or as my grandma would say, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. I decided that even means the talking head on the news. If you think about that, you and I, if you meet someone at a store, or you know someone, they know you're a follower of Jesus, they know you're a Christian. And you talk steak. You're showing that person that's what all Christians do. And if that person happened to be a child who saw baptized, you blew it right there, right? So you and I have to assume everyone needs our example. It gets hard. Will you seek and serve Christ in all persons and love your neighbor as yourself? I live in a condo of 37 floors. I know the people on my floor, but I don't know everyone. I have to tell a story to myself. I walk 5 miles. We live on the mountainside of Waikiki, so I get to walk down, go over the outer Waikiki and walk down to Waikiki. And there was this older woman sleeping on the sidewalk that I stepped over every day. Well, I did not step over that. I stepped around because of the smell. In many ways, I didn't notice. And one day, me and I were walking together. I usually walk in the afternoon, he goes in the morning. And immediately, he took out a protein bar and handed it to the woman and said, "Good for you." My wife caught me. There was a neighbor there. A neighbor I didn't see. And the woman actually said, "Thank you." And went back to doing writing. So if we're going to love our neighbor as ourselves, we're going to seek and serve Christ in all persons. You and I have to see them, right? We have to know they're there. And then we get to the big question that we want to jump into. Will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? I can't do that by myself. That's why I need you. We're in this together. In this broken world, you and I are called to be the presence of love. And in fact, that's right where Paul and Paul's wisdom goes. In chapter 5, Paul says, God in Christ has forgiven you. Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children. Live in love. As Christ loved us and gave himself. Paul gets to jump right to love. That's what Jesus did. I'm not that smart. I need to know I've got to gather. I've got to read the Bible. I've got to pray. I've got to show the children what it means to be by caring for my neighbor, being reminded that I don't see my neighbor, being the change that is God in the world. So now we're going to baptize. Remember, just because I pour the water, we're all doing the baptism. Because it takes us together to do that. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to put my mask back on. I'll meet you at the baptism.